Had a bit of trouble the first time I tried recording, but thankfully I literally didn't get anywhere before I noticed the problem. Now, let's get this one started. Why is it part of me wants to have more knowledge of all the more mundane jobs that Samus has probably had to take over the years just to keep herself fed and her ship maintained? At least when the ship doesn't have to outright be replaced due to some bullshit beyond our control. Anyway, this seems to be an explicit rescue mission. Nice to have a mission of mercy for a change, but with our luck, there isn't going to be anyone to really save here. Not the best kind of image of the planet, but to be fair, we're probably not going to explore the entire damn world. Wait, our scanner didn't register the odd energy field surrounding the planet? I would have thought the ship's computer would have mentioned something about that before we start flying down there. Maybe trying to come up with some kind of flight path that goes through a bare minimum of whatever the hell that stuff is. Right. Of course our ship is somehow getting damaged by the crap going on around here. I'm sure this landing is going to sting. Okay, pretty rough, but it could have been a good deal worse. Apparently the hover function reactivated before we outright ended up digging a trench into the ground. Oddly disappointed that Samus didn't have to pry open the top of her ship after the oddly half-hearted crash there. Anyway, time for another adventure with our heroine. Well, it'd certainly be awkward to return to the ship just seconds after we left it. Well, it seems this planet has some interesting tech here, even if some of it isn't functioning as we arrived. What, we can't get a more detailed account of the damage our ship has taken? I don't care if they start mentioning a bunch of bullshit systems, this is a sci-fi story. I'd like to have a better idea of how our ship was damaged if it's still able to regenerate our suit and float there indefinitely for the rest of the game. Should I be worried about whatever it was that spun that web? Because I honestly wouldn't mind fighting a giant spider considering all the other things we've killed in this series so far. Okay, so we can't scan the odd plant things here for some reason? Annoying, I was pretty curious about those seeming undersea plants being here in the open air. So essentially, that's a kind of mushroom for an alien planet. Now, why are we able to scan that, but not any of the plants that are creepily wiggling around here? Okay, don't think we've ever been unable to translate alien text before. At the very least, that confirms that wherever we are, there aren't any Chozo artifacts around. That's certainly a nice change of pace for this series. Well, those certainly look more human. And what a surprise, it seems the Federation troops we came here for had a good deal of trouble before we ever arrived. Is anyone surprised? Right, so whatever made the webs we had to blast through probably came down to the Federation troops and gave them a hard enough time that they had to start using an overly complicated bug spray. A bug spray that they're running out of. Well, it's not like we're all that likely to take our suit off while we're in potentially hostile territory. Not that we're ever really given the option. And I assume we won't gain the most potent explosives until we're damn near at the end of the game or something. Still, there's gotta be another way through this gate than just blowing it up. It doesn't look like there's any other way forward right now. And that takes care of the locks. Right, so the Marines who are stuck on this planet started to panic at some point, because of course things are so bad in the area that the Marines would be losing their minds in fear. Ah, there we are. Kind of hoping that once we get by all this lockdown stuff, we'll see the Marines still alive. Still, that's severely unlikely considering all the other times Samus has gone into the fire. The only time we had anyone to really interact with in this series was so far, was in Metroid Dread, which was made quite a few years after this one was released. So the gates that are pretty much impossible for Samus to bring down have taken severe damage from the local monsters. Here's hoping we get a good number of upgrades before it comes to fighting them. I also hope that we learn if that communications damage was something purposeful or just random acts of destruction from the local threats. Certainly didn't take us long to get to a map station, but then, just because we're going to have a layout of what's all around us doesn't mean we're going to be able to actually access everything just yet. So the problems here were desperate enough that some of your own people were getting killed by your own defense measures. Plus the panic shooting at that one monster we just passed by. Definitely an ominous picture being painted for us here. But then Samus is pretty used to ominous. And while we aren't especially well equipped for whatever it is that's gonna come, since it's once again the start of a game, so Samus has to lose most of her gear from the previous adventure. I'm sorry, but I'm just not feeling especially unnerved just yet. Merely curious. Oh dear, bodies hanging from the ceiling. Certainly not a good sign for this rescue mission. Okay, so these things generate the webbing, but they aren't themselves the threat right now. Still, probably a good idea to kill them before we get to the next room. Literally scared to death? You mean there were no external signs of injury? Digested from inside of his armor. Not sure if that's more or less worrying than the guy who died of fear. Friendly fire. Well, we're getting some answers around here, but not of the questions I'm most curious about. And we've got a guy who was poisoned. Not one of them seems to have died by the same means. It looks more like the bugs picked at a bunch of corpses that were already there instead of killing the poor bastards themselves. I can't really find it in me to feel any sense of mercy towards those bugs, though. Okay, 30 different attackers finishing this guy off means that the bugs are at least partially responsible for the death of this squad, instead of just chewing on the bodies of the already dead. That deals with what little guilt I might have had for killing these things, just because they happen to be in the room. Seems the trouble managed to get into the control center as well, as if I needed more evidence that we're too late for these bastards. Was there something wrong with the lock sabotage, or just, faulty equipment? Either way, those locks got at least 3 people killed, and we've definitely seen more than 3 bodies so far. Shit. Anyone want to bet that the power was out pretty much the instant that guy tried to get to the panel and died? Probably shouldn't laugh, but when the first words we read when scanning a corpse are, "I don't like this plan," it's hard for me not to. Unfortunately, it didn't matter if you provoked the other hives or not. Everything that could go wrong seems to have done so while you were here. I'm sure everyone was very alerted to the problem as they were dying. I don't suppose there was some secondary place for everyone to fall back to in case this place was breached, is there? Even if we can't get the log entries, I'd still like to know how he was injured, if that's at all possible. Sure, it's easy to guess, but I'd prefer to know for sure. Unknown, huh? The ominous stuff just keeps on coming. 242 wounds, none of which I can actually see without using the scanner. They were certainly pulling the trigger pretty rapidly around here, that's for sure. Yeah, tunneling is always a bit of a problem when dealing with bug-style aliens, and these ones were apparently pretty territorial. And yet more corpses hanging from the ceiling. Why is that body shaking while all the others are pretty steady? recommended, but probably not possible since I doubt we're going to stay in this particular corner of the planet for long. Besides, I doubt that the anti-bug chemicals that the Marines tried to use are going to be a factor once we leave their emergency base here. Whatever those chemicals were, though, just wasn't cutting it if the Marines had to resort to hand against a bunch of frickin' bugs. I'm pretty sure it did come to that. Bloody hell, I didn't hold out much hope for these guys, but it's still a shame that they had absolutely no chance of rescue. Anyway, let's activate this thing and see what happens next. Right, and there's the power for the panel that poor bastard died trying to reach. Okay, so we've got zombie Marines now. I've got to admit, I did not see that one coming. An unknown biomass that happens to have the same dark liquid that we saw from those odd creatures back in the intro. It's certainly going to be awkward reporting to the Federation since these guys are going to have extra damage from our weapons. Not that Samus ever seems to have any kind of contractual issues no matter what happens in any given mission. Hell, we don't even have a sense for how much she gets paid for this sort of crap. It's just what popped into my head at the moment. At least these zombie Marines aren't especially durable. That's got to be worth something. But then neither were the ones from Metroid Fusion. Took a bit more effort to scan that energy unit than I thought it should, but then maybe there's not as much point in scanning absolutely everything in this game as there was in the first Metroid Prime. I'd ask why some of these corpses are untouched, but I suppose that's just for gameplay reasons. It would be more than a little annoying if outright lore entries ceased to exist after such a short period of time, if the player didn't think to check on them at the earliest opportunity. Right. And more zombies the instant we open the door. Sorry, boys, but there's not going to be enough left of you to get a proper funeral. Now, what's behind the door they were guarding, for lack of a better word? Okay, so this room seems to have a bit of fog in it. Why is it never a good sign when the door decides to lock behind us? If I'd managed to 100% the original Metroid Prime, we would have seen the Phazon suit's hand with a scary eye on it, implying that the Metroid Prime has taken over the armor it spitefully stole from us just before we killed it. Without that, though, all I can do is look at Dark Samus and go, really? We're pulling another evil Samus bit this soon after the SAX from Metroid Fusion? Bit of a flawed first appearance for what will be a major villain in this game and its immediate sequel. So neither of these creatures were killed by either Dark Samus or the portal she was messing with. I really wish I had other options than to just jump through a portal we know nothing about, but there is literally no other way forward from here, and it's not like we could turn back if we wanted to. Well, at least the portal itself didn't do anything especially brutal to us on the way through it, but it looks like those creatures from the intro really don't appreciate us being here. Wait, is that Phazon on the wall? Why in the hell is that on the other side of the portal? Okay, so Dark Samus just shot the crystal on that spear thing. Clearly, she knows a lot more about this planet than we do at this point. That field shrinking is probably a bad thing. As if the swarm of monsters coming at us from multiple angles isn't menacing enough. I assume since she's flashing red, that this somehow hurts. Right. Anyone who didn't see something bad coming the moment we went through that portal, please stand on your head. Now, just how bad off are we after that? Right! Of course we lost the bare minimum suit functions we had, because of course we need to lock off some areas for a while with the most simple of possible barriers. Ah well, at least we still have the Morph Ball, even if we lost the bombs and missiles, and at least we still have the Charge Beam. I'll take what I can get as we start with one of the most infamously difficult Metroid games in the series. So rough that when they did a re-release on the Wii, they went out of their way to make some boss fights easier to deal with. Then I suppose we'll have to find some other way to get out of here than the gate. Well, since we don't have bombs or missiles, there's no way we're going to be able to get through that just yet. Well, at least there's an open hatch right next to it, so there's probably an upgrade behind the locked-off one. Here's hoping that I remember to go to it later in the game when we actually can get through that barrier. Considering how slow these zombies are to shift their aim, why do we need to get a message about dashing? Sure, we don't want to stand right there and take their fire, but all you need to do is shift slightly to the side in order to avoid getting hit. Well, since there's a save point nearby, we may as well use it. I'm pretty sure the first Metroid Prime gave us more than 20 minutes of having our initial set of upgrades before pulling them off us through bullshit means. Well, that's one clip down and who knows how many more to go from here.